Hello, 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 and welcome to another. What am I calling this series? Writers Talk, I think. I forget. Writers Discuss,
I do
crafting
know.
chat.
Maybe.
I
Craft
think
that?
I made so many outlines of like the thumbnail, so at some point I'm just like,
Oh,
oof, there's a
wait,
title here
but
somewhere. But
it says on StreamYard, writers talk about
so then
newsletter.
this is just welcome to another Writers Talk About. We are two writers and we talk.
There we go.
And this month we are talking about what, Malin?
Newsletter Ninja by Tammi Labrecque.
Tammi Labrecque, indeed. I have a banner for this prepared instantly. There you go.
Nice.
Newsletter Ninja by Tammi Labrecque. Um,
Did you prepare this banner 2 seconds before?
yes, truly did, truly did. The way I usually do this stream is that we go through talk a little bit about the authors, talk a little bit about our experience with the subject or like the craft being discussed. I usually ask if you use this in your writing or in your like author career. The book is like very many short chapters, which I loved.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure and the flow of the book. And I think that's just going to be it. We're going to do some streams too, at least one stream, because I have like a stream task to do. Uh, let's
Yeah.
see.
I
I'm going
would
to say
definitely do some writing during this sprint.
hi to some bitches. My main bitch. That felt very derogatory. My good friend Katie. Hello, Katie. Welcome. Got my notebook ready for taking notes. And she says, "Oh my God, new headphones! Truly giving professional." And camera reveal. Yeah, I also updated my camera. This is too much for me. This is just too much HD. I
It's
don't like this.
actually so good that I can see how beautiful your background
you can
is.
you
How
can like you
like
can triangulate the location outside my window.
is
It's
this
a
real?
huge
Did you
step
set it
up.
all up? Like, does it normally look like this, or was it for the stream?
Oh no, I am this organized. I'm very anal retentive about keeping my place, except my kitchen. My kitchen gets messy. But like this section, I
Stunning.
never sit there, so I have a guest over once a week, and we use the couch, and that's like the use it gets. So, but yeah, this week we're talking about this month we're talking about Newsletter Ninja by Tammi Labrecque,
I was gonna
how to
say, don't
become
make me read one a week. I can't do it.
how to become an author mailing list expert. And I firstly want to talk a little bit about mailing lists and about our own personal Idahos and experiences with mailing lists. Are you a mailing list girly? Do you have a mailing list?
I do not. I have absolutely nothing. This was sort of a. I wanted to read this book to prep myself, know what to expect, and sort of think about getting a mailing list. But I am a complete noob.
Do you subscribe to any mailing lists?
I do. I've got like a few authors that I subscribe to, and I obviously have Katie Ann's newsletter in my inbox every month, which I love.
Obviously.
I'm not great at reading through everything that people said in their newsletter. I just tend to scroll down, look at the images and the big headlines, and that is it.
Just look at blue and then next.
I'm like, oh, nice. Or like the mood boards and stuff like that. Love that. Just like scrolling down through it. And then I don't really read the content, to be honest.
Did you have any like philosophies or any like thoughts or any like I don't know, misguided thoughts, question mark, about mailing lists before you started reading this?
I don't
Like, did
know.
you have like, ooh, I like them, or like, I hate them, or like,
It's such a weird topic because I feel like the only mailing list I will ever think are generally interesting are probably authors' mailing lists. And I feel like anything else, I don't want it. And I have
so you're
way
not subscribed to Goop?
I am not subscribed to Goop. I am subscribed to way too many ads that come in my inbox. And I have too many that are like, I just open, delete, and I need to unsubscribe myself to a bunch of things. But authors' mailing lists, I feel like, serve a purpose in a different way. So I'm more interested. And I can't really think of
And we're
other.
going to tap into that later
Yeah.
in this stream.
Do you have a bunch in your inbox?
I subscribe to mailing lists out of obligation.
Out of
To all my
obligation?
friends who's here, I subscribe to you because you are you and because I like you, not because I'm interested in mailing lists. And that was very much my philosophy going into the
Interesting.
into the book. Like, I think mailing lists are antiquated. Nobody ever uses email. It's very much like a Gen Z thing. I feel like there's no point to it. Like, you can get the exact same thing through Instagram or something more like contemporary, like TikTok. And you know. And also, as a general concept, and I thought about this while reading the book, I feel like authors make such a weird mailing list subject, not necessarily
Really?
for the content, because I'm very nosy, so I love like getting to know people, seeing pictures
Yeah.
of their everyday life. I love that. Well, my friends, I get that anyway because they'll DM a picture of their niece or their dog, or like
Right. But
when I
like
see it on stream.
it really depends on what people talk about in their mailing list and what they
Yeah,
use it for. But I feel like blogs are dead. And the only way to get the content we used to from blogs is through newsletters. Like,
agreed. And also another thing is that the authoring publish nope. Yeah, the author's publishing process is so slow. Like it can
yeah,
take a year to query. It takes a year to sell a book. It takes 5 years, like to complete your first ever novel, like statistically, like
yeah,
from start to finish, 5 years. And like if you send out newsletter month after month after month, I'm just like, "Ugh, I have already seen this on Instagram. I don't care." And I know that's such a cruel thing to say. And I've been getting comments by people because you can track your newsletter, you can see who opens them and not. And I've
yeah.
had people like message me like, I see you haven't opened my newsletter this month, and I'm
Oh,
like,
I hate those. Even though we talk about it later in the book, yeah, the re-engagement thing, I actually hate
yeah, I'm just
those.
like, "Ugh, leave me alone. I subscribed because you had one free template and I wanted it. I'm
But
that girl."
I will say this, there's one newsletter I subscribe to that I adore and will read all the time. It's not very often, I think she sends it. Ellie Marney is an author I quite like. I've got, I've got her book here. She wrote None Shall Sleep and other books.
Gorgeous cover.
Yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it? And it's very Hannibal Lecter-esque, but YA. So
Oh,
it's
the book, not
giving
the newsletter.
it's giving Silence of the Lambs, the young adult version. So like there's
Okay,
like it's a bunch of teenage then older teenagers. It's a little bit new adult, I would say. They're older
gotcha.
teenagers and they have to rely on a teenage serial killer to help them catch another serial killer. So
As one does.
it's fucking fantastic and I love this series. And she also wrote I forgot the name. She wrote a book that is sapphic romance with code breaking girls in World War II vibes. So,
Oh, I already love the premise.
and she writes a newsletter that has nothing to do directly with her writing. It is all about like a case, like it's almost like true crime stuff that she found out about, and she tells you all about it in her newsletter. And I'm obsessed because I think I'm way more into this is a story, and I'm interested in this author in particular telling me about this story because she writes really well. Um, Over, I'm interested in what she does in her daily pastimes and stuff.
What makes you enjoy the newsletter compared to like other newsletter?
It's just because she doesn't write about her life. She just writes about like case, true crime cases. So
Oh, yes, it's like a true crime pod.
yeah,
Just in newsletter form. That's a way
but
to do it.
newsletters. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sounds like we both went into this book not being particularly email list people, and
no,
I think that's a fair assumption. Um, I want to talk a little bit about because she does talk about us in her book.
yeah.
I think she there first with like what did she call it? Like mailing list edgelords or something.
Are we edge lords?
I think I'm definitely an edgelord in terms of this universe because she's very much like, ooh, are you a newsletter hating edgelord who doesn't like newsletters? And I'm like, yes, that is me.
I would I would not call myself that because I don't hate them. I just don't think my time is too precious and I never really read newsletter content. Like I just
Before you went into this reading, do you believe in newsletter? Do you believe they hold value as an
I think
author?
so. I feel like I've heard enough feedback of people who use them successfully to know that there is potential for newsletter out there. It's
Yeah.
just and like I appreciate like at some point in the book she says you're not your reader, you're not your audience or something like that. And fair enough because I would automatically I'm definitely the kind of person to say like, well, I wouldn't do this and therefore
Yes.
you
She
would.
calls it do not make business decisions based on your own consumer habits or something.
Yes. And I was like, yeah,
And
I would 1000% try to do that and then realize that's not how it works.
that's when I was like, oop, okay, maybe this book
Calling me
knows who I
out.
am. Maybe this book does have something to come with. And it did for me personally. We're going to talk a little bit about it later, but I did like, I see the value now. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm reformed, but I do see the value
Well, do
in.
you, because I thought you wanted to maybe make a newsletter. So, like, would you ever make a newsletter not really believing in them? Or do you know what I mean?
See, that's the two wolves inside me. One of them is a newsletter heading edgelord, and the other one is a newsletter wanting creator. So I guess they just have to duke it out, and they surely did duke it out during this novel. I keep calling it a novel during this craft book.
Yeah.
And there's a conclusion to the end of the stream. Like I'm going to say like yes or no, and I'm also going to try and pull yes or no from you. So that's the agenda for the day. We sing hello to Minook. Hello, hello. We were joined by Wendy. Welcome, welcome. She says nail polish kiss emoji. I think this is in reference to me in reading her newsletter, or I open Katie's newsletter, but I don't read it.
Yeah, but you also scroll down because I feel like that's important. See the pretty images. No, you
No,
gotta see the
I
pretty
see them all the
images.
time. I got a live show every day of Blue. I don't need to see pictures, but like at the same time, it gives me great sorrows because I'm like, oh, I should be supporting my friends by reading the newsletters because, and this is something Tammy keeps talking about, like she calls it the Holy Trident or something, like click,
Yeah, the three things you meant, like,
open, click, respond or something. I
yeah,
think she
something
calls
like
it.
that.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
uh,
to be honest, like reading the book has made me think more about how I interact with newsletters I receive, and I immediately went onto like another person's newsletter who I quite like, and went to click on some of her links just to make sure that this person
yeah,
now knows I am responding. I'm there.
yeah, me too. I'm definitely going to try and be more open-minded about newsletter going forward. And I know that Katie has one coming out some of these days. So watch out, Kitty. I'm going to be interacting so hard on that. Minook says, I love this discussion already. And Katie says, ooh, I'm the opposite. I love a mailing list or newsletter. I'm just deeply nosy, which should speak to me because I'm a very nosy person. Um, but somehow it's just, I think it's like you, Malin, the time investment, the ROI is
Yeah,
just not there for me sometimes.
I'm nosy, but I'm more visual, I think, and so give me info from pictures.
I need an Instagram feed, is what I need.
Do a comic book newsletter, and I'll probably read it.
Yeah, that would actually slay. Maybe that should be my angle, even though I can't draw. Wendy says I have a hard time focusing on them. You can't put that many words in front of me and expect my brain to be interested. My poor brain
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Which
I
is
think I'm
crazy
the
because,
same.
like, we read books, right, guys? Like, we all actually read books. But
I mean,
this
some of us, not all of us. Some of these things are not like the others, and it's me. I say I read books. I read a lot of drafts, but never books.
you're currently, yeah, doing a bunch of beta reading. So you are
Yeah.
reading this many words, is what I mean. But
Yes,
it's
yes,
just,
yes, for sure.
I guess newsletters are non-fiction, and I don't really
I
read
guess
non-fiction.
they're like journals or something, I would
Yeah.
say. We have a Slaynab here. Hello, hello, hello. Minook says, I'm interested. I just don't like email as a medium. Screams work to me.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
like
I
it.
don't have an email job, but emails is just, yeah, it's just so antiquated to me. Even though I know they're not, or maybe they am. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just setting my ways, but I'm just like, ugh, emails to me are like spam offers. I unsubscribe to so many newsletters
I
all the
feel like
time.
emails have become a second job where I need to go and delete a bunch of things every now and then. And like it makes it really deeply unsatisfactory and just like a bit yeah. I can see
Yeah,
why people would be like, that's work, and therefore I don't really enjoy it.
yeah. Kitty says, here's the thing about me. I write my newsletter mostly for me too. She's my journal. Guess who will be writing her newsletter during these sprints? I'm guessing it's you, Katie. I'm guessing it's you. Malin, yes, the images and like short paragraphs, maybe.
Yeah.
Wendy says, I do read books, but sometimes my brain rebels against that too. That's when the audiobooks come in.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very fair. Um, but
And
yeah,
that's when you have people who have podcasts instead of newsletters.
yes. But yeah, Tammi Labrecque is Canadian, question mark?
It sounds Canadian. It
I
sounds
think
very Canadian.
it sounds very Canadian. I think she's a Canadian author. As all craft books, we read. I feel like I've heard about her crafts books, but I've not heard about any of her other books. But she does say that she's a editor and an author, and she does workshops by the sound of it. And
Yeah,
she
there
has
was a
taught a lot of
chapter at
like
the end
author.
that was
Yeah,
all like, here's all about my workshop and everything. Yeah.
yeah. So she's an author, editor, and publisher from Canada. Canada? I
Canada.
don't know. Canada. It's now Canada.
Kingdom of Canada.
The Kingdom of Canada. But yeah.
It's being Wallace naming a country Coventry, and I was like, that's a place in England.
So yeah, Newsletter Ninja is probably her most famous book. She also has a Newsletter Ninja all about cookies, which we are going to talk about later. I've hand selected a few topics from this book, and
And just so you
if you
know,
have anything you want to talk about, Malin, just
I
like drop
literally
in.
finished it yesterday, so it should be quite fresh in my mind. But
Gotcha.
I'm happy that you've selected topics because I always need a refresher of what was specifically talked about. So I remember, oh, yeah, that's what I thought about this.
Yeah. The first thing I want to talk about, and she touches on this after like the introductory stuff, where she's like, this book is for the people with email lists, the people with email lists that doesn't do well, and the people with email lists that aren't big enough, and blah blah blah.
And
And
it
she
was like,
talks a little
oh,
bit,
it's not for me because I don't have any
but
email
then she
lists.
talks about email list hating edgelords. So then that is for you and me.
Yeah.
And then she specifically has a chapter called "Why You Need an Email List," which I'm currently not definitely typing out in a banner form. So we can just put that on screen. But yeah, why need an email list? And this is the part where I agree with her. She says that building building subscribers or whatever you want to call it on platforms that don't belong to you can be very scary.
Yeah, I like that she said that. I didn't think about it that way. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and that's sort of where I kind of agree with her that having like a list that belongs to you, even though it belongs to the mailing company, I guess, that you produce it through. So it's just another word for a platform, bestie. Where's the logic? But like, unless you like make a Google
Yeah,
Doc
but
and then print it out.
I liked her example of how she had a group on Facebook with a co-author friend who then she had a disagreement. It's giving very 14-year-olds having a disagreement, but clearly the
Very
friend wasn't
much.
happy with her during the said disagreement and got rid of her from the Facebook group, which I was like, wow.
Yes, that's the example she dropped. Like, yeah, and then she lost like 2, 3, 400 subscribers, like
Yeah.
on a whim. And
I
I feel
mean,
like that's the thing that I could see the logic behind.
yeah, I won't lie though, all of the references to Facebook, every single time I saw one, I was like, when was this written? Is this still relevant? Like,
I was
are
like, is this
people
2010? But it was 2018.
Yeah, and I actually generally think it's just an older crowd, but partially when it comes to romance books, there's a lot of big groups on Facebook that still exist.
I think
It's
that's where
just
the target audience for romance novels are in a big gathering. Yeah, all her examples are like, I think there's one mention of Twitter, and then
she
like
doesn't even
the rest
mention
of them.
TikTok ever, so I don't think it was a thing
No,
yet.
and not Instagram either, not like
Yeah,
on the other platform.
yeah.
And then just a bunch of Facebook. I literally made a comment, something like, let me see if I can find it. I'm seeing a pattern of outdated social media platforms, but the book was written in 2018. Because she's like, oh, you should put your newsletter in your email signature and in your Facebook header. And I'm like, bestie, where's the link tree? Where's your
Facebook
Instagram bio?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I feel like the principle, or she calls it what, her philosophy, her mailing list philosophy. I think that still stands.
Yeah.
Uh,
And she does say a lot of the time, I did appreciate that she's very aware of social media platform trends and that she was saying like, oh,
at the
in two
time,
years, like in 2 years, this might not be the case anymore. You might rely on this instead or that, etc. So it was interesting that she was basically being aware of how fast the landscape can change when it comes to social media. She was saying this advice applies to this, but
yeah.
things might be slightly different.
Which is why I think I enjoyed the book a lot too, or like more than I would have, because she's
Yeah.
very like, she doesn't talk about specifics. She's just like,
I'm at a 60% enjoyed, 40% annoyed.
yeah, I agree. Maybe 70-30.
It
That's
was
feels
more
right.
to
Yeah.
me, it's more because, to be honest, I read this mostly on my commute on Monday morning and evening, and that's when I'm probably at my most tired, and I had very little patience for how often she fucking says, "We'll get to this later." It pissed me off to no end. Like, I was at the second to last chapter and she was still saying, "We'll get to this later." I was like, when? There's 10 pages left.
Yeah, there's a second book. There's a follow-up book, so maybe that's the later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think one of the things I appreciated was that she's talking about her mailing list philosophy, as she calls it,
Yeah.
and like kind of what that means, and not so much about the specifics. She mentioned some
Yeah.
specifics like platforms and stuff to use, but she's
There were
very
some
much
good
like, at the
examples.
current time, these are relevant, but you should do
Yeah.
your own research,
Yeah.
which I can, respect the hustle. Let's see. Katie says, I wish newsletters came in an audiobook version. I'd love to listen to people reading the words. Very memoir vibe. It's just a voice message. That's what you want, Katie. It's just a
Yeah.
voice message.
I will send you a bunch of voice messages if you want. It's like, they get so long.
Don't worry about it. And the philosophy that she talks about is, she has two of them. She calls it her mailing list philosophy. The first one is that you are not selling what you think you are. And what do we mean by this, Malin?
So when she says you're not selling where you think you are, she was talking about books in general, because that's exactly what I would think I would be selling if I were to write a
Which she
newsletter.
says that's the answer all her students give. So
Yeah, but evidently she's saying you're selling yourself as a brand, I think. She doesn't say it quite like that, but
she doesn't say it a brand. She says you're selling yourself, but she means as a brand, parentheses.
I think it's like, make yourself into a brand and therefore people will then buy your books because they'll care about you first.
Yeah, that's like the
Well,
first
she
rule
says,
of
she calls it like, it'll
Fight Club.
come as like like an advantage, like something that comes from people liking you
I think she
rather.
calls it like a happy side effect.
Yeah,
So yeah, like the first rule of Fight Club is that you are not selling what you think you are selling yourself, and that book sales are a happy side effect of selling
yeah,
yourself. Uh, and then she also says that the second rule of Fight Club or Mailing List Club is that if all you're using your list for selling is books, if all you're using your list for is selling, you are doing it wrong.
yeah.
That's a typo. And I also think that that makes sense.
It does. I think I agree with a lot of the principles that she set forward, and like she does seem like she knows what she's talking about, and
Yes.
it did make sense. It did make a lot of sense. I just sort of think a lot of it was useful for, like, it seemed very much advice that was made for people who already have books and for people who already have something that they might want to sell as happy side effect.
Yeah,
And she
she did
didn't
market
really,
it as like towards people who want to start a mailing list, but
yeah,
like a lot of things she were given were like things if you're an established author. So
yeah, yeah,
I think that's one of the things I want to touch on when we talk about who this book is for, is that
yes,
I don't think this is for beginners.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, the second rule of Fight Club, she says, if all you're using a list for is selling, you are doing it wrong, because the purpose of a newsletter is to build or create or establish or cultivate, I guess, what her friend calls super fans.
yeah.
So
Which
people that don't
I
like
knew of
your
that
book, but they like you.
before.
Oh,
I
you
had
have?
heard, yeah, like the superfans thing I had heard of before, and when she refers to David Goffran's book, I knew of that book before her book, so I
Oh,
feel like it's quite known in, craft books
she's
area.
educated.
Hmm?
And she's educated. I've never heard about this man, David Gorgon. Goran.
I don't know how to
But yeah,
pronounce it.
she just says that, you're not selling a book, you're selling yourself. And the point is not to get people to love your book, but to love you. So therefore, loving all your
Which
books.
I don't know
It's
if I
very
want.
much giving like cult leader vibes, I feel like, some of
Yeah,
this.
and I
It
was
was
like,
very
I'd
much
rather
like,
people love my books than me.
um, both be an option.
I don't know
Katie
that I
says, yes,
want to be
please.
that
I love a
close to
voice memo.
them. Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it does feel. Well, she also talked a little bit about like the parasocialism of it all and like
yeah,
what it means to cultivate a good list, which we're going to come to
yeah,
later. But yeah, she talks about like her two mailing philosophies, these two, and then that's really all she says about the concept as a whole. The rest of the book is sort of like a recipe on how to go forward to create this
yeah,
list and how to maintain it and how to
yeah.
clean it.
And I
Um,
liked that it was quite practical advice.
it's very much a how-to guide
Yeah.
if you're interested in looking at newsletters. Um, So I liked that about it. I felt like, yeah, she felt very like she knew what she was saying, and she also talks a lot about giving classes and having students and being endorsed by other authors and all the accolades
Yeah.
she's like have uh, have
Yeah.
won for this book. So I feel like in terms of her qualifications, I feel like she knows what she's doing. That's just the
Yeah.
vibe I get.
Yeah.
Um, and just like every other writing craft book, it's very like colloquial, funny
I think that was the
tone
one
to the book.
just the one thing that annoyed me, I think, was that kind of language. I was just like,
And I
this is
feel
what
like that's our comment for every craft book we read. Like, they're trying too hard to be funny.
yeah, and it's never that funny. And it's just it takes space. I'm just like, get rid of that. Just get rid of that.
Yeah. In some cases, I like it. I think Jessica Brody does a fine balance.
Yeah. It's like you can
Um,
do it a little bit, but
and I also felt like Tammy wasn't overdoing it, but the one book we did last month, Romancing the Beat, I felt like she was overdoing it.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
And
those are the.
again, I think it upsets me when I read a really short craft book and they overdo it because it feels a lot like they're just adding on. Like it's like me paraphrasing 5 times the same thing in my fucking school essays, you know? It's just
Yeah,
you're just trying to add word count to this so that you can make it a book and sell it.
I think that's fair. And also, that's just what she's saying. Like, after she gives her paragraph, she's like, I could just quit here because I've told you what I know. But we're going to go another 100 pages, just because this
Yeah.
is a book.
Yeah.
So that's definitely definitely something
Bit of
to
self-awareness.
be mindful of when you read it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she goes through a couple of programs for like what you should think about when you choose a platform to sign up to, like what kind of services you should use. So it's very applicable in that sense. I feel like
Yeah.
if you and me were to go out now and like, oh, I need to pick like a newsletter medium or like platform, I feel like we would be well rusted to do so. I don't know. How do you
Yeah.
feel?
I mean, to be honest, being a graphic designer, people talk about newsletters in general, and it's always been Mailchimp, and it will always be Mailchimp. There's, some platforms have a supremacy, and like just a thing that is like that's the monopoly, and you know that everyone relies on it.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that if you ever do this, you would go with MailChimp then, or?
Yeah, I used it, funnily enough, for my wedding invites, so I know how to
Oh,
use it.
okay. That's
Because it's
fun.
as someone who loves making things look pretty, it would be my favorite platform for that, for sure.
Graphic design is your passion.
Exactly. I would like to make a Comic Sans only newsletter and make sure that
Oh, I would unsubscribe so fast, Bestie. But well, I guess I wouldn't open the email to begin with.
that's
But
true.
that's
You need to open the emails first. You need to click
yeah.
on stuff so that Gmail knows to trust it.
Yes. And that's also something she talks about, like how to avoid spam folders, how to avoid like the promotion folder, how to
Yeah.
make sure that your email reaches your target audience. So it's
And
very like a practical book.
it was very funny because I kept feeling myself falling into the same trap she talks about at the beginning of every time she said something I slightly disagreed with, I would be like, well, I wouldn't actually click on that as myself. Therefore, no one will.
But as we learned, Malin, you are not your target audience.
Exactly.
You do not make business decisions based on your consumer behavior. Thank God, because I feel like I'm an outlier in consumer behavior. Um, but yeah, I think that's what we're going to cover for this bit. We're going to do sprint now. I prepared an ad apparently.
What are you doing during the sprint?
Sprint, I will be starting beta reading a certain project by two certain lovely ladies that I have signed up to, I guess, alpha reading at this point. But yeah, I will be doing some alpha reading. Well, I will be figuring out the document and where it is and then start reading.
It's a good
My
start.
deadline is the end of the month, so we are on day 26 of like 30,
Nice.
31. So, a 4-day limit, I can do that. It's only 80K words or something. But when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the process. We're going to give some thoughts, and we are going to talk about some subjects that I want to talk about. And if you have any subjects you want to talk about as we go Malin, just say so. And then we're going to wrap it up after that. So this is the only sprint for the stream. So enjoy it while it lasts for these 26 minutes.
Nice.
Chill vibes only.
Yeah.
How did you do for that sprint, Miss Try?
Good. I was writing
Madam
a
Try, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Madam Try, I'm sorry. You are a
Run
married woman. I
twice.
forget. Madam Tries.
I wrote 400 words in Space Princess Project, so I'm feeling fairly happy. I've got literally 4 beats slash chapters to finish
Oh,
off this book. So I'm just
she's so close.
so
She's
close.
edging.
So close. But like every single time I end up being like, oh no, this should be split in two, and then I end up having 4 still left. So I'm constantly at 4 left.
Insert clown emoji.
Yeah. How
And
do you do?
I did the things I said. I found the documents I was going to find, and then I have 5 days off in Easter, so I like made a set list for the things I want to kind of accomplish, both because I have like a few home reno projects that's been sitting around, like jobs to take like an hour or two to finish that I've been wanting to do. I made like a reading plan for the beta project, so I know how many chapters to read per day. And
Nice.
then I made like an outlining plan for like what I need to outline to finish the outline for my novel that I want to finish
Ooh,
by God in quarter 2, if God is good, if God is willing. So that's what I did, like a plan for Easter 2024. You can't
nice.
really see it, but it's there. It's yeah.
I love making a backwards plan of having like, here's my overall goal, here's what I need to do step by step, and I need to have done this by that date, this by that date, this by that, etc. Like it's
I'm
just
literally like
system.
Wednesday chapters 1 to 5, Thursday chapter 6 to 12, Friday chapter 13 to 70, Friday paint door, Sunday finish cabinets. Like that's the level we're at.
I love that, but I because I feel like that's the way to be the most productive possible. Like I literally my list of like beats and stuff.
Oh my God, are we the same? Hello, just lists.
Literally, it says Morgan's Aftermath, 26th, which is today. So I need to finish that chapter today. Orion, the chapter, which means they're finally having sex. That's going to be,
Slay.
I need to get that done tomorrow. Morgan's final image on the 30th. And then the conclusion slash final image slash potential epilogue 31st, so that I can finish this month.
I literally left room because my Monday just says outline, and then beneath like so this is like the reading outline, and then the month outline, or like
Yeah.
the Easter outline, and then this is the outlining outline. So I'm like, Monday outline. From 10 to 11 is bad guys close in. 11 to 12 all is lost. 12 to 1 lunge. 1 to
Yes.
2 dark night. 2 to 3 break into 3 because 3. 3 to 4 final, which is like the 5-point finale, and then 5 to 6 the final image, and then by 6 I have time off. I can do whatever I want. So
Nice.
that's the level I have to like train my brain into thinking like, okay, from
But
5
like
to 6 we're doing this.
it's been working so far for me. So I feel like this is a good method.
And then like if I finish after 15 minutes, I'm like, slay. uh what happens if you miss a step? Did you
Shush,
include catch
Eva.
up or work ahead areas? I mean, my deadline is the end of January, March, April, May, June, end of June to finish the draft. So if I don't finish the outline on Monday, then there's Tuesday.
Yeah.
What is like from 11 to 12? You have to poo too. Luckily, I don't take an hour-long poos, so I could just like poo and write an outline at the same time.
Which it's a multitasking world here. So yes.
Yeah. Also, hello, Eva. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey. We were joined also by Spring Rising, Paris. Hello, hello. We were joined by Anna Robbins. Hello, hello. Had a doctor's appointment. Hope everything is all right. So I missed the
Yeah.
beginning. You can go back and watch the beginning later. That's the beauty of playback.
And is
Also,
everything.
you missed not a whole lot. It's just me and Malin bitching about mailing lists.
I said some nice things too, it's not
I
all.
also said some nice things. I'm pretty sure Substack is hated but when I was doing Dracula Daily, I enjoy the fact that I could go into the app and just have it read to me.
Oh, does it
That's
have
fair.
a function that just reads it out loud? That's quite cool.
That's good. I like that. Very organized, Stieg. I aspire to be you. Don't, by God. Aspire to be yourself, Eva. I like you. She says, I want to make a list now. Take you both.
Lists are good.
Uh,
Nothing wrong with
Lists are
lists.
good. I love lists. As someone who works of goal achievement, lists are good. And that check mark is worth more than money to me.
So
That's a lie,
I
but I like them both.
literally said this the other day on the Lazy Gang stream with Anna. I was saying how I sometimes make multiples of the same list because I like to have a physical list for some things, but then some other things I also want to have it on Notion, especially when I'm working. So sometimes I have like a double list and I'm just like, oh, I get to check that twice.
Yeah, that's good. Eva asks, is Substack hated? I have no clue.
I don't really
Sounds
know.
like it.
I think Substack is a bit too unknown now. Like I feel like I know of it, but that's it.
Yes. But back to the matter at hand, which is this month's book, Newsletter Ninja by Tammi Labrecque. We talked a little bit about our thoughts about mailing lists. We talked about like what we like slash mostly what we didn't like about mailing lists, and a little bit about Tammy's philosophy when it comes to mailing lists and like whether or not we agree with that. And it makes sense to me. And if you missed it, for the girlies who missed it, the one first philosophy is that you're not selling what you are selling yourself, not your book. And the second is that if all you're using is your list for selling, then you're doing it wrong because you want to use your list to connect with your readers. And that brings me to a question that I was interested in knowing your thoughts about, Malin, which is what Tammy refers to as onboarding. Now, for those uninitiated, onboarding is literally just you as an author getting an email viewer on board with your scheme, like with your plot or with your like getting them on board, whatever you're paddling. And this is done in a various ways. She describes a way which annoys me immensely is when you're subscribing to something and then a week later you get a mail about it, and then 5 days later you get another email about it.
Yeah, I don't like that either. But again, that was another moment when I was thinking, okay, I'm not meant to be my audience, right? Like, I shouldn't do business based on what I would do myself as a customer.
Yeah,
Um,
which is what I keep telling myself when I read this book. Like, oh, I am not my target audience. You know, I don't want to make business decisions based on my consumer habits.
but
Uh,
also is just like as someone who does get some emails from newsletters, mailing lists. I don't enjoy it when I have a bunch at once. I don't think that's what she's saying to do. Like, they're not meant to come in all at the same time.
she's very adamant about like bringing value to your newsletter and not spamming.
Yes. And she does say also only make it as long as stuff you have to actually say. So, because
Yeah,
some people have a sequence of emails for onboarding that are longer than others. And I think it kind of depends on what exactly you're selling. I know that you're meant to sell yourself, but
she had 4 emails in her onboarding, and I'm like, oh, I would have unsubscribed by email too. I'm sorry, bestie, but again, we're not making business decisions based on our consumer habits. I'm getting that attitude.
I just sort of feel like there should be two, and that's it in my head. That's how I would picture it. I would be like a welcome, to this newsletter email, something that says you've subscribed, you're now gonna get this, and then the first newsletter, and that's it.
Which is what she refers to as, thank you for bringing this up, the first date.
Yeah.
She does a lot of this thing where she kind of allegorizes, metaphorizes, compares like getting a reader on board with your newsletter as going on a first date. Like there's and the more she like talked about it, the more I was like getting like this is just basically a date. Because you want to get to know the reader and you want the reader to get to know you, and then it's about the
You want
numbers
to
and someone's not
get
going to
rid
be a
of the
good
bad
fit.
ones, and you want
Yeah.
to.
So she does talk a lot about how growing growing a mailing list equates to dating, which I see as a good point, and I agree with the metaphor.
I sort of
But
feel
yeah,
like it's more. It made me think more of making friends in your 30s, making friends in like just you go faster in your relationships in general when you're a bit older because you want to know immediately, are we going to stick to this friendship?
yeah, I'm
Or
like, do you want kids? Do you want to get married? Are you an ex-murderer?
I love that these are amalgamated together.
Yes, these are the 3 most important things I need to know.
But just in
Um,
general, like, do we vibe well together, and therefore should we
I think
stay
you can usually tell within a minute or two. At least I can, like whether or not I will gel with you.
Yeah, but also there's levels. There's levels of would I gel with you as part of a bigger group or one-on-one only or
Well, when I'm on a date, I'm not usually looking for an orgy, uh, or orgy. But definitely like meeting friends, it definitely is like people. There are definitely people I can hang with out with in a group setting that I would never hang out with one on one. So
yeah,
that's a good point. But I'm specifically talking about date setting, like
yeah.
unless you have a a polycule or a a V triangle, whatever floats your boat. Um, Eva had a question: is Substack hated? And Kitty said, I don't know, I like Substack. And then Eva replied with, I don't even know. Nope, that's Wendy, not Eva. I heard someone complain about it the other day and just jumped to the conclusion, lol. And then Kitty says, I don't know about the you're not your ideal customer, but like, what if I am? I don't want to send things that annoy myself, so I don't know.
I'm
The
definitely
phrase
my ideal
is,
reader, but I'm not my ideal customer, I imagine.
yeah, the like her mantra that she repeats multiple times is that do not make business decisions based on your own consumer habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what she churns on about, and which makes sense to me. Like when she says it, I'm like, ah, naturally. But as a human, I tend to not really think about my own actions objectively. I don't know about you.
I think it's
Uh,
also because when I write, I know that I write for myself. I know that I write stories I want to read.
that's different, though. I feel like that's
So
different.
yeah, but because of that, you can't help but analyze your own
Yeah, yeah,
habits.
yeah. I see what you're
You're like,
saying.
am I the person that I should be addressing? Like, am I like a typical version of people who would read my books or not? You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, but yeah, she talks a little bit, and Kitty asks, "But why? Can you explain it to me? Why wouldn't I cater to how I
You're gonna
consume?"
have to read the book. I'm joking.
Yeah, this is actually I have an affiliate link. If you go down below, Kitty, you can actually buy this book, and I get 10% of the earnings. I'm just joking. If you want to sponsor me, Tammy, hit me up. I will read you what she says. Um, you should make decisions based on how your readers respond to the things you try, like getting reader feedback and try by looking at measurable results. So, like, not on your emotions, like, ugh, I don't like newsletters. You should look at like the open
Numbers.
rates on your newsletter. You should look at the click rates, the unsubscribe rates, the conversations, because you are not your reader. I mean, you should write the book you want to read, but you are not your reader. Does that make sense?
Like,
Uh,
I think it's also related, although she doesn't make the link directly, I think it's also related to how she says when you're thinking of, like an avatar for your reader and all that, we'll get to that later, obviously. You have to make it as wide as possible when you're thinking about your potential readers. So, like, it's not just me, a 33-year-old woman. It could be a person between 30 and 40 who, do you know what I mean? Like, and like my brother doesn't have the same consumer habits as me and he's 3 years older than me. And does that mean that I should only think in the way that I would do certain things, or should I also include how he does certain things if he were an ideal reader for me, etc.? So I think that's how you can't just consider yourself as the only example, because there's other people who are going to be interested in your books, and you got to think what actually works, what do I have in terms of numbers, can I test this, and etc.
and that speaks to my logical brain as an earth sign. Like, just look at the data, see what works, see what doesn't
Yeah,
work. Like, does it help or does it not help? And she gives a few parameters for you to like look at to kind of gauge whether or not
yeah.
your mailing list is
And
helping you. And it makes sense to my logical brain.
yeah, and she talks a lot about what does she call it? Split checking or something like that, like split testing. So she says like
Yes.
if you test everything and test it two different ways with the people that you have in your mailing list all the time to see what works best. Which
There's a name for that. I forget. But there's like a term for that.
she just calls it split testing, but I don't know what's the
Yeah.
actual official term.
So did I answer your question, Katie? I don't know. Call in. Um, Eva says it'll hold you back. Your target market is bigger than just those like you. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is basically what it boils down to.
yeah.
When I'm on a date, I'm not usually looking for an orgy. And put that on a t-shirt and sell it. Let's
99.9% of the time, I'm not looking for.
yeah. Let's see. Eva says, I don't want to have to read the newsletter to know everything, but I also don't want to see the same thing on social the day after the newsletter. I don't know what I want from newsletters. LOL. Wendy says, I understand not catering to yourself, but feel like there is something to be said for reaching an audience that is usually missed. Yeah, for sure. Again, she talks a little bit, we can discuss that later, a little bit about making the perfect avatar, not the perfect avatar, but making an avatar for your readers. Basically just, who is your demographic, who do you want signing up for your
Yeah.
newsletter, and what do you offer them? If you're going to discuss it in a pubic space, I'm guessing this is supposed to say public.
Great typo. It's a fantastic typo.
If you're going to discuss this in a pubic space that is also your audience, i.e. AuthorTube, make sure it doesn't need the prereq of reading your newsletter. That is my only real ask. I think I understand this.
Yes, I think so.
If you're going to discuss it in a public space that is also your audience, i.e. AuthorTube, make sure it doesn't need a prerequisite. Yeah, I feel like it shouldn't be a demand. It should be like an addition. Like, ooh, I got the book deal, and then the newsletter could be like, blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yeah. I think, but I also appreciate that, like, the whole jig around this idea of newsletters isn't for your average fan; it's for your super fan. It's
super
for
fan.
people who are going to be like, I want all the extra goodies. Like, I want the scene, the extra scenes that you've cut off from the book as like a bonus. I want to like hear about every little bit
Yeah.
of your process while you're writing book 2 because I'm waiting for it, etc. So I think it's a bit
Yeah,
different.
she says that, and we talked about it before the sprint, that your newsletter is for people who like you, not necessarily for the people who like your book. But hopefully they'll like your book if they like you. Does that
Yeah,
make sense? That make no sense, but yeah,
it's an
I
added
think
bonus.
it's an added bonus. Let's see. Wendy says the problem with social media and where a newsletter is helpful is that social media does not send things in order. So newsletters will get the information to your audience at the right time, at least. Yes, and this is the one thing that would make me that this is the one thing that makes me want to make a newsletter, is
Mm,
that she describes it as like social media obviously important for an author to market, but it's like building your business on a social media platform is dangerous because you could be locked out from your account, you could be hacked, like anything can happen to your social media account because you don't own it. So the value of a mailing list is that it is a list that you can access at your terms, you can configure it, you can do whatever you want with it,
yeah.
and kind of, you know,
And you could ask of those people to help you out if some shit like that happened and you were like, I have to rebuild my Instagram.
yeah, for example. So I see the value of that, and that is what kind of draws me into a newsletter, is that
Yeah.
it is giving, I don't know how to phrase this without sound like a total douche, but it's giving you control over like the information.
No, but it's so like I see what you mean. And I think also when you've got like releases and you want to tell people, here's like my new book is out or it's coming out, you have the ability to directly send a link to people rather than be like, go click on the link in my bio. And then it's like a multiple link thing. And then they have to go down and scroll to the. Do you know what I mean? It's like a bit more
Yes.
convoluted and you're going to lose half the people at each step. Each click they have to take, they won't do it.
Yeah,
So
and she also talks a little bit about this. I'm trying to find up what she says. Uh, she's talking about, I don't know. She had a point about this that I wanted to talk about, but now I lost it in my billion Notion notes.
it's also like some people will take breaks from social media, but they're not going to take breaks from emails. So like
Yes.
you might reach some of the people who are like, I'm taking a break from my mental health, but I'm still going to read about you because I like you.
Yeah, and she does talk a little. What does she call it? She has a word for it. I think it's like the give take something ratio. Is that what she calls
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I think that's what it is, the give take ratio or the take give ratio, whichever.
Yeah, like we said in the beginning, if your newsletter is only for you selling your books, then you're not doing it right, because then you're just asking all these things from your reader, but you're never giving them anything.
And you've got to give more than you actually ask of them.
Yes, it's very much like a quid quo pro situation. And that also found that very fascinating, like in almost scientific way. The reader pays with their email address, and then you make like this contract
Yeah.
Do you make this contract like, okay, the reader has provided you with their email address, and now you have to provide them with something in return.
Yeah.
So if they're only signing up and then you're sending them a book to buy, then that's not it.
Then you're asking them again for something instead of
Yeah.
giving them content. I also think it's not something that she really talks about in the book itself because, like we said earlier, she doesn't really mention newer social media platform for authors. Like she doesn't really talk about Instagram, which is not all that new, but is definitely more used now by authors than before. She doesn't talk about TikTok, which I don't think existed. I think it was still Musically or something like that at the time when she wrote it.
Probably.
And it's funny because I was thinking about those things when you said I would rather just go, I already have that content on Instagram from them, I already have that content on TikTok from them. And I was thinking, but that's fast-paced content, and that's like such a everything's in a hurry, everything has to be bite-sized and quick and then done. And I do appreciate that newsletters are like slower content and like more take your time and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. I just disagree from a
Okay.
philosophical standpoint. I agree with Eva. My favorite newsletters are short ones. I want to basically Instagram carousel. That's about it. I don't want some long-winded text that I have to scroll through, and it's just yeah. And
Yeah, but
it's
that's because the people you're thinking of who are sending, you're just a fan. But if you're a super fan,
true. There are people I would gobble everything up from, like Samantha Shannon. I would read whatever she wrote in an email. So I guess that makes me a super fan. Does that just mean that I'm not a super fan of my friends? Oh no. I'm
well,
not
you're their
finding
friend,
out
so
things
it's
about myself
different.
live on main that I don't want to find
You
out.
already know a lot of the personal stuff. You already have a relationship with them in a different way.
True, true.
So,
But I am a super fan. I just yeah. I agree. Let's see. Eva says, I don't buy trad books new unless I know the author. I buy indie books new. Trad I use the library or thrift if I only targeted toward me. Eek, lol. Katie says, I guess I understand not being very rigid in how to market and trying to reach more people, but I also see so much social media advice about being niche, which maybe those are two different things, but I always equate them, making a niche for yourself and catering specifically to that instead of a wide audience.
yeah.
I think you can do both. Um, how? I have no clue, but I definitely think that,
It's sort of like, you know how people go viral on TikTok and are like, and now suddenly they can sell a book or whatever because they have a huge audience. I always feel like afterwards, soon after, I hear a lot of backlash about these people and, oh, that book wasn't as good, etc. And I always tend to think they reached the wrong audience. Like when Fourth Wing blew up, I enjoyed it because I'm the right target audience and it was sold to me the right way. Like the person who talked about it said everything that was in the book that I knew I was going to be interested in. Therefore, when I went in, I didn't have high expectations on anything else than those things. And I think it got so big that everyone was recommending it to anybody who would listen. And it reached the wrong audience. It was like so many people who should never have been reading that book. I don't know if I'm making sense.
yes. So I think definitely, and she talks a little about this too, Tammy, about
Hmm.
ditching the dead weight or whatever she
Yeah.
calls it. Like, your job is to find people who are super fans of you, and not everyone on the planet, shockingly enough, is going to be a super fan of you, and that's all right. You don't want that, but you definitely want to build like a substantial list, but of people that's interested in your content. So whatever
Yeah.
that content is, however niche it is, but it just makes because I feel I'm not going to slag people live on main, but there's like definitely author tubers I feel like who are just being so vague, so nondescript, so like basically a 2005 YA novel that you can just insert yourself into,
Yeah.
uh, that just has no personality and that just they're not really a person, they're just an aesthetic. Does that make sense?
I see what you mean.
I definitely feel like
I
there's
don't know specifically who you're talking about, but I see what you mean.
yeah, there's definitely people out there who are like just an aesthetic and not so much um like a person that I'm interested in getting to know.
Yeah, they've curated like their brand has become the aesthetic itself,
Yeah,
and yeah,
exactly. They've become a brand and not so much a person. And she talks a little bit about this too. Like,
Katie. Well, you can just say
wow, you can just say my name.
yeah. So
Um,
Katie, uh,
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this girl, Kitty Ann Wright, but oh my god, she's just so annoying.
It's just a brand.
She's just a brand. No, that's definitely not what I'm talking about. I don't want to just name names. Not that this is like me and my 10 closest friends or
I
whatever,
think
but
it's
I
a
just don't want
general
to.
thing as well. Is like we've seen it on every platform, not just specifically
Yes, there's
AuthorTube.
definitely author tubers that feel like just are their brands and not so much a person, and their brand is just the
I'm
aesthetic of writing and not so much the
I'm
writing.
sorry, Eva, you cannot tell the troublemakers that they are public personas and have to live up to that and then be like, it's just us here, just tell me.
Yeah, what's gonna be, Eva? What's gonna be? But yeah, that's something that I would be like afraid of, uh, to just become, because I feel like I don't know, talking about the troublemakers as a public figure is just so wrong, so morally wrong, because we're not public figures. But like I feel like it's not really us trying to sell you something. We're just hanging out, goofing around, new
And
but
yet we
goofing.
would buy it. We are super
True.
fans.
Yet I would buy it. But like I feel like there's a difference because, and I also think this is like because we're so small and so niche. So maybe
Yeah.
niche is the solution. Who knows? But we're so small and so niche compared to the big author
But,
tubers.
but that's exactly
Uh,
what it is because so when she was talking about like, building your newsletter and getting the right people in and everything, I was thinking about YouTube and how I kind of see my YouTube subscribers, I guess, as like that equivalent of those emails. And
ah,
do you see what I mean? And I'm like, I've been growing very slowly, but very evenly. Like it's been like 300 more subscribers per year, kind of
shit.
ish. So, and it's sort of really nice because every single time I'm like, I don't know how to explain because it sounds so much like, oh, I don't mind that I'm a small YouTuber. I'm more saying like I enjoy how slow it's been because every single new person that subscribes to my channel, I feel like really wants to be there. And I'm not saying they're super fans, obviously, but
I'm a super fan. I'm going live on
there's
record
like
saying that I am a
I've
super fan, Malin.
I've passed 1,000 subscribers.
Slay.
Yet when I did my poll to know what do people want me to read as like a celebration of that, 47 people entered in total. So I would say I have 47 super fans in
And
reality.
I'm one of them. And I'm one of them. Let's see. Eva says, I've never been a super fan. Don't forget that I buy books too. Indie at least. Where is it? I'm not going to say it. You can say you're not a public figure and then move through life as you are. So there. I don't move through life like I'm a public figure, I think. I'm just
Mm,
mindful about what I put live on the internet for everyone to
I
view.
don't actually know what it means to move through life as if you are a public figure. What does it
Me
entail?
neither. I wish. One of my big dreams, like a childhood dream of mine, was once the first thing I ever wanted to be was a vet. Nope, it was an architect because I played The Sims a lot as a kid. I'm like, how hard can it be? Just make a house, voila. Figured out you have to know math, and it's just not playing around in Sims. So then I wanted to be a vet, and then I'm like, oh, but what if I have to kill an animal? I don't think I could do that, like from an emotional, because I'm an empath, an emotional standpoint. And then number three is that I wanted to be a public figure in the form of a royal. So I wanted to marry Prince Harry, as every teenage boy out there did in the early 2000s.
Oh
I
my
just wanted to marry
god.
Harry.
Mary, like that show, Mary Harry.
Was
Have
it a
you heard?
show?
There was a TV show where they got a fake Harry, like he was a really good, like
Impersonator?
yeah, and they got
That's
a bunch. And I
diabolical.
think it was like a bunch of American women that they got on the show to make them believe that they were generally going to marry Harry and that they had to go through etiquette classes and stuff like that. I think that's what it was. It's like a really
That
old.
sounds diabolical. 2000s were, a borderlands
Look,
for internet shows.
everything, like half of reality TV is scripted. Let's be honest. I don't believe that they
True.
genuinely
There
know.
was one was like a bunch of brides in a house, and they could like each week or each episode they could win a surgical process.
It's from
So they could win
2014.
like a nip tuck, they could win like, a facelift, they could win dental reconstruction.
Yeah.
And it's just mental the stuff that's allowed to put on the television. I was gooped. This is why I think our generation is how we are, because there was a lot of unpoliced stuff on televisions in the early 2000s.
It is
Uh,
called I Want to Marry Harry, and it was an American reality television show in 2014.
shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's That's why I gobbled up red, white, and royal blue so much because I'm like, oh, this was my childhood dream. I wanted to be marrying the prince, not as the, son of the American president, but just as a Norwegian farm boy. I think that
Yeah.
would be so slay. So basically, the plot of Young Royals, I think, except just a poor boy with a poor fantasy and not a farm boy. He was as a little joke. Kitty says, but yeah, totally. I think making your internet persona a brand is also a defense mechanism against being known by a wider audience.
Yeah.
Do what you want, says Eva, and I agree. But that doesn't mean that I have to like you. YouTube videos can totally be like a video format newsletter. I feel like YouTube videos, especially vlogs, are like AuthorTube vlogs are the only form of like YouTube videos that you can make these days. I feel like.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I enjoy more the chatty ones on one specific topic than I do vlogs at the moment because the vlogging part is so time consuming sometimes and it's just like having in your head all the time, I gotta get my phone out, I gotta take a video of this all the time is a little bit exhausting at times. So to take proper mental health breaks, I think sometimes the chatty ones are better.
yes, I think this just harkens back to do it because you enjoy it and not because you want to sell your book.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't do YouTube because I hate everything about it. I hate scripts. I hate filming. I hate.
But I do
What I like
generally
about live shows is just like you hit one button, you're online for 3 hours, pause or you stop, and that's it.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
do
don't
enjoy
have to.
streams, I think, more
Yeah, you don't have to
sometimes.
rewatch anything. You don't have to edit anything. Well, I probably should edit something.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
love the editing part. I think that's the thing, is I generally
oh,
enjoy doing the editing part for videos.
I do not have enough patience for this. I do not have time for this. I do not have time for you, as that TikToker says. Uh, but yeah, I just don't enjoy the process. So I don't do it. But then, everyone else is doing it. So you kind of feel like, oh, in order to be a successful
No,
indie publisher, I should do YouTube. Do you
no,
feel?
absolutely not. Like in general, it's absolutely not recommended because AuthorTube is full of people telling you what their process is like. So it's viewed by other writers, not by your readers. They're not your audience. And in general, that's like
I mean,
known
yes,
fact.
but it feels like in
And
order to be a successful a
second,
successful author,
I generally think that it's better to find your matching like social media platform, whether it is YouTube videos, newsletters, TikTok, Instagram, and stick to like two that you're really enjoying doing, because otherwise you won't be consistent and it doesn't matter then.
that is free. We have Meow is Cutie Pie here. Hello, are you giving
Cool.
free Robux? I have no idea what this is, but welcome. Anna says, the past few days I've become totally in love with Lydia Foxglove over at the Cozy Creative. Usually I'm all about vlogs, but for her sit-down videos, I am sat and loving her style. Oh, I love this.
I don't know this
Speaking of
person.
aesthetic vloggers, Anna, hello.
Yes.
Eva says Twitch is just fun for streams for the audience and the host. I think also it pays out faster than YouTube. Asterix, I don't work for Twitch. I just don't like the layout of Twitch. I much
Yeah,
prefer
it's
YouTube.
Twitch to me is what Discord used to be. It is geared towards a certain audience and it makes no effort to be intuitive for any newcomers. So it doesn't grow because of that. Discord has changed now. They finally changed their layout and a bunch of things that make a lot more sense now than it used to. Like it used to be when you clicked on your fucking username, it would copy it instead of opening status and stuff like that. It would just copy your username. I was like, what is that? That is so not intuitive.
Yeah. Let's see. Eva says, I've floated around this community for many years. 300 a year is not as slow for AuthorTube. There you go. Someday a royal will have a poly relationship. Maybe it's today. We don't know. Kitty says, just stamp Malin try superfan on my forehead.
Thank you, Kitty.
Let's see. Oh my God, yes, he was a fake Harry, and they all thought they had a princess. So funny. That sounds so diabolical. Only 10
It's so
years ago.
funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't play Fortnite? I don't.
No.
Eva says, I see co-writing and co-working streamers make hundreds of streaming gifts, so I don't know. Yeah. Eva says there's a very few successful authors on AuthorTube by their own measurements. There are several successful content creators. Exactly. AuthorTube's audience is writers. And
Yeah.
I am an audience. Kitty says, damn, maybe I should get into Twitch. I
Did
mean,
I say?
some of my favorite streamers are on Twitch, like Margaret Vidal. I love her streams. She's a Twitcher.
Yeah.
But I like YouTube, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
accustomed to. And if I've learned anything, it is that you do not cater to yourself as a consumer. Are you sure you're not giving me free Robux? I am 100% certain. I
Um,
wish you good luck in whatever this is.
yeah, I'm just like, are you a robot? Like, are you real? Do you
Roblox
know
is
me?
in Fortnite. You are crossing your gaming platforms. I'm sure maybe someone I know, a troll. I don't know. There's a lot of people on my channel that
Yeah,
could troll me.
Kitty has a wrench. Kitty, do your job.
Yeah. Eva says I only follow smaller Twitchers too. Cesare Pope is one of my faves. He streams very early. Also love his writing. He has several books out. Ooh, that's fun.
Yeah, I appreciate people on Twitch. I just don't like the platform.
Yeah. He says, "Oh, I have a job."
You have a wrench.
I don't know how delivery this is, but I think Katie would be all right with it. But when I was visiting America, the custom officer asked me like, "What are you doing here? Like, where are you going? Why are you here? Like, what is your purpose?" Very invasive. And then I was like, "Oh, I'm visiting some friends. We're going on this little cabin in the woods in the Poconos." Like, and he's like, "What does your friend do for a living?" And I was like, she's chronically ill." And I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. Well, Katie thinks it's funny. I was really
Did you actually
embarrassed.
answer that? I love that.
I actually said that, and I'm just really embarrassed. But I'm just like, she's chronically ill, which is not a job.
I
It
mean, it's
pays
just as
very
time consuming though. So
more time consuming, but
yeah,
pays worse, way worse. So funny. I love that TBH. Yeah. Eva says Nick Slater is someone I've been getting hundreds in gift during a stream. They are a writer, not yet published. Oh, maybe I should get on Twitch. I don't know. Nope, that would just be for the money, and that would be wrong. We have to move on. I want to talk about one more thing before we kind of wrap up. Well, a couple of more things actually. Cookies is something she mentions in your
yeah.
newsletter, and we love cookies. Malin, what's your favorite cookie?
I actually disagreed with her on the cookie thing. Ooh, controversial opinion.
Controversial.
I no,
Tammy, if you're in the audience, I'm so sorry.
in general, I think she said a lot of really good pointers, and it was really good advice because it was quite practical again, which I appreciate. However, there's one thing she said in it that was like, do not ever give your readers in something unfinished. Like, don't give them a first chapter or something. And actually, there's one person I literally had subscribed to recently that I subscribed only because I wanted to read the first chapter that they were offering of their book. And I was like, it seems to work great for her because she has a lot of subscribers to her newsletter. So I don't know if this is still accurate, if it has changed, if it's just
I
in the
agree with the
end.
philosophy that you should offer as a cookie something complete. But in terms of a pre-sale giveaway, absolutely, few first chapters are a banger.
Yeah.
And if you're like promoting your book, the few first chapters for a sign up in exchange for the email address, I would be on that so fast. I have been on that train many a times.
It was literally because she does a thing where she has a series. It's Elise Kova. I really like her books. She does romance, fantasy stuff, and she wrote a series called Married to Magic. And like, I think the first book, the character's like getting with a dark fae, and then the second, she's getting with a vampire lord or whatever. I can't remember. Different couples for each book, and she literally gives you the first chapter of your choosing for free, and it made me read the book. So like it
So a
worked.
win is a win is a win.
Again, I'm not the only person. Like you shouldn't base myself off my consuming habits,
Do
but
not make business decisions based on your consumer habits, Malin.
right.
If you learn anything from the stream, it is to not make business decisions based on your consumer habits.
Yes.
But yeah, thing she suggests as a cookie for your newsletter is to give them something, but give them the complete experience. No like 10 first chapters bullshit. Things like short stories or novellas work. A prequel to your series would work. An epilogue or extended epilogue, or a sideways story. So something that takes place in your
It gave
universe
me so
alongside the main
many
plot.
ideas, to be fair, when she gave like suggestion, because I was like, I don't write short stories. It's a completely different type of craft, and it's very difficult to achieve. I think
Yeah.
that's not me. I don't have a finished book in a series that I could give away because I'm not published at all. But then when she said like things like prequel chapters, like mini stories or whatever, like
Like
side,
cut content from a novel, the way I would gobble that up if an author was like, yeah, these are the chapters that I had to cut from a novel, but you can have them here
yes,
like as a cookie.
would love,
I would gobble it up. I
would
would
love,
just, the
like
cookie jar would be
literally.
empty.
Because I'm currently in the middle of Space Princess. Well, in the end of Space Princess, I was thinking I love the way that my main my male main character Morgan interacts with his crew, and there's little hints as to the backstories of how they met. And I'm like, wouldn't it be great if I was like, here's like the full story of how they met the first time for each of the separate characters in the
I'm
crew?
so
Like,
excited for this idea, Malin. You have to do it. Samantha Shannon did this thing in A Day of Hollow Night, which is the follow-up novel to Pride of the Orange Tree, where she had like an exclusive Waterstone edition that contained an extra chapter. And like, this would make a great cookie.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, yep. Please make a newsletter, Malin. Yes, I say I don't like newsletter, but as we're going to discuss in a little bit, I might have changed my tune. Um, but yeah, these suggestions are good. Writing them down. Um, you're welcome. Tomorrow's Troublemaker stream has suddenly been moved to Twitch. LOL. If the Troublemakers go on Twitch, as soon as they hit monetize 50 followers, I'll throw dollars at them. I think we've all collectively agreed on that we'll never monetize our content, so
I
no
was gonna
worries.
say, I'm pretty sure that even if the rest of you were to say like yes, Wallace would like put her foot down because she's so against it.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna do what we do for however long we do it. But we're never gonna do like a Patreon with exclusive tiers. We're never gonna do any signups for monies or like monetize stuff. So
Mm.
that's just something we've collectively agreed on when we made the Troublemaker channel that we won't do it. So no worries, we're never going to take your money either, but we will take your open, your receive, reply. No, what is it?
Your
Your check, your open, your reply. No.
click open. No, I can't remember.
Yeah, we'll take your engagement, Eva. Like honestly, just leaving comments
We
makes our
will take
day.
your soul, just like a cult. Yeah,
We
just
will
money
take your
and
soul,
soul.
yeah. But your soul isn't money, so that's fine. We never said we wouldn't take your soul. Um, I'll do the same if any of you get a little super sticker, though. I can't help myself. It's fun. Yeah. Flashback to the April Fool's prank. Uh, but yeah, we will never be monetized. So
You may
uh,
sell someone else's soul if you want, Eva. We'll take it.
it's not our fault. Y'all didn't read the fine print. Yep. But yeah, we're talking about cookies. I love cookies. I think cookies are great for newsletters. I have signed up to many a newsletter under the guise of getting a cookie, and then I've promptly
You're
unsubscribed.
the person they're trying to get rid of. You're the dead weight in the
I'm
newsletter.
the dead weight because when they're like, "Oh, hi, Stig, I haven't seen you in 7 days," I'm like, scroll down, unsubscribe.
I just wanted the freebies.
That's literally me. Literally
Yeah.
me. So yeah, I think cookies are great. I think you should absolutely do them for both newsletters and pre-sale giveaways, and I think they're fun. And I just wanted to talk about cookies. I also want to talk about delivering value, which she talks about in the chapter,
Mhm.
which means that your newsletter, as you said earlier, Marlin, shouldn't just be you writing a newsletter for the sake of having a newsletter. You should have something to say.
I don't have anything to say.
You see, that's where you're wrong, Marlin, because you're a rock star.
I
Do you
just
find your super fans?
yeah, but like I think I'm the opposite of how you consume content where you're like, I don't have time to read a long ass newsletter. I just want to see the pictures on Instagram, right? And I'm like, I don't have time to write the newsletter. I just want to put pictures on Instagram and I don't even write a fucking caption. That's
So you're my ideal, like I'm your super fan and you're my ideal creator. This works out great. She talks about delivering value and she talks about this give to ask ratio. So you should
mm,
give more than you ask. And ask would be like, I want your email. I want you to sign up to this thing, or I want you to buy my book. That's big asks. So you should deliver. And I think a cookie, as we talked about earlier, is a great way to deliver on that, to
yeah.
like kind of
But
offer. So
she also considers just writing content for the newsletter the giving part because when people are signing up, if you tell them the terms and you're like, I'm going to write about this and that every month, that's what they're expecting.
yeah,
So you're giving them that.
which is like very much what authors are doing in the newsletter, as you can
Yeah.
have different segments that they fill in. She talks about treating your subscribers well, and she mentions a different bunch of different things you can do. And I'm just going to read them up from this list because I can't remember them all. You should ask yourself before every email, what's in it for my subscribers? You should make your subscribers feel special, make it so good they recommend it to their friends. You should only send them relevant emails. You shouldn't be spammy. You should solicit replies in every email. You should give readers what they want. So basically, dating.
What did you think about the you should ask a question to your
Hate
people?
this. I hate this so much. I do not like.
Same. I was like, I would
Especially,
never reply.
I would just unsubscribe at the point. But then again, we should not make business decisions based on our
I
consumer
know.
habits, Malin.
I know.
But that's one of the things. Like, I like it when I'm watching my friends' authorship videos because that gives me something to answer in the comments. Because I feel like I should always leave a comment for the engagement. So, like, if they ask me questions, I can answer that. That makes it easier in a YouTube video. In a newsletter, though, I feel like that would just be a chore, and I wouldn't want to do it.
That's the thing is, like, I can see that working with Instagram, with, like, just having a poll on your YouTube community tab or whatever, like, places where
Replying to an
people.
email is a lot of effort.
Yeah, that's different. That's just different.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm like, much like Natalia and Bruglia, I am torn on whether or
Yeah.
not I think newsletter. I mean, sh who am I to disagree with this lady? I'm nobody. I have no newsletters. I have no experience. I don't have anything to like. But I just feel like emails are so antiquated. And I know she says there aren't, but oof, I don't know. I'm getting heated. Let's see. Eva says, make an anthology we can we can buy. Wendy, just like me, is the dead
I'm
weight
the
too.
other way too.
One story each, same prompt, different genres. Oh yeah, the book. Do you recommend this book? We're getting to that momentarily, Eva. I reply to a few newsletters. The question have to be very enticing, and I have to feel known to the sender. Shannon asked us to classify a character or something once with their own fancy system. That was fun. I replied to that one. Oh, I would
Yeah,
hate that.
but that's fair enough when you're saying you have to feel like you know the sender. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I don't think I'm subscribed to Shannon's newsletter, but if I were and she asked, like, if Katie asked me a question, I would probably reply. But because in my head I'm like, she's also a friend, I would
True.
I wouldn't reply to a random author's newsletter even if I'm subscribed.
All right, Malin. We are going to wrap up this discussion with a few questions. Who is this book for?
I think it's for people who already have books out, to be honest. I
I
don't.
agree. This is for established authors. This is not like, oh, I want to start. I mean, I guess you could also start, but no,
It's sort
yeah,
of, I think it's just the way she formulates certain things. I think I still learned a lot from it, despite not being someone who has any work published.
yeah,
But I would argue then that it's good if you're thinking of what's another way for me to market myself in this lowless world where even TradPub expects you to market yourself. Like, that's useful to read this then.
yes. I do agree. This is not for beginners. This is not something you need to know like off the bat. I feel like there's other ways without me going into it that you could market yourself more efficiently with other social media than to start a newsletter. I feel like a lot of the things she discussed in this book are things for established authors that have something like that have some kind of book out there
Yeah,
to market.
the main thing to me was the whole cookies discussion that really made me think, what can you possibly do if you don't have books out already? Like,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I agree. This is definitely not for like you should definitely start thinking about an email list, but I don't think this is necessarily what you should begin with when you start making your platform.
However,
Uh,
you could view the newsletter format as, I want to start marketing myself, which is what she does say. It's not to sell books, it's to market yourself.
yes,
In which
yes,
case, yeah, that could also work.
yeah. But yeah, definitely feel like you should read this if you. I would. If we're gonna roll a die for this from 1 to 6, how would you land?
From 1 to 6?
Yeah, that's how a die works.
Yeah, I know, but like, you don't mean from 1 to 10?
A die doesn't have 10 sides.
But are you asking me to rate it?
I'm asking you to rate it from 1 to 6
That's
because you're
such a
rolling a
random
die.
number to rate it from. Okay.
Oh, that's how we rate
Uh,
everything in Norway with a
I
die. One to
really?
six. Yeah.
I've always been doing like increments of 5 or 10.
Oh,
I
we'll
would
see.
probably give it a 3 or a 3.5. Like, I think it's useful, and depending on what you want, it's good advice, it's practical advice, which I appreciate. However, I also think all of that information is probably available out there without buying a book, if that makes sense.
True.
It's just if you don't want to look for it, the book is there.
Yeah. This gave the first Game of Thrones book a die roll of 6. This gave The Gift a 5.
That is
This gave this recipe a
definitely
6.
that's definitely something new. That is definitely a cultural shock.
Oh, we've been doing this for ages, ever since I was a baby boy.
I mean, it's
See
fantastic. Never thought of doing
this
that way.
baking book gets a 5. This book gets a 5. This movie with Margot Robbie and Will Smith gets a 4. Yeah, that's just how we rate things in media in Norway.
Wow.
But you can rate it on any scale you want. But yeah, I feel like a 3.5 is a good rating. But I would say if I had to roll a die with no numericals, this would be a 4
Out of 6. Yeah.
out of 6. Yeah,
Yeah.
4 out of 6. Who is this book for? This is for anyone looking to market themselves with a newsletter, or anyone questioning whether or not it's worth to market themselves via a newsletter.
I do have I know we're reaching towards the end, so before I do have a recommendation for people who are interested in newsletters, but also other formats of self-marketing, which is the author I was mentioning earlier, Elise Kova. She also does newsletters geared towards self-promotion marketing specifically, in which she talks about things like newsletters, SEO, TikTok, etc. So she talks about more recent stuff because it's a newsletter that she does. So
oh, these covers are gorgeous, though.
yeah, very pretty.
Do
But
not look like
also,
my type of novel, but these just
and
look
and
gorgeous.
the reason why I'd recommend it is because I read her books as books. Like I know her as an author first and foremost, but then she also does talk about all of that marketing stuff. Unlike authors that we've been reading so far in their books, like Tammi Labrecque and like all the people who have been writing craft books, I don't know their books. I've never read a book by them that isn't craft.
I think that's a good entryway into a craft book if you know the author for an author first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my conclusion to who I think this book is for. Also, a little wrap-up question: will you be starting a newsletter, Malin?
I'm still debating it.
Or
I'm not.
would you start a newsletter? I think
I'm
that's a
at.
better phrasing.
I'm in 80% yes, not 100% yes yet. I think
Oh,
I wanted to before I started the book, and I was thinking I'm going to see whether this confirms it or whether I should. I think reading the book made me think: do I need to perhaps already have something established out there before I do? So that's raised
what
some
do us? What do you say to our friends out there who already has newsletters but not have established something to be sending out there, Malin?
I think that the point she makes about market yourself and get it out there for people who you want them to like you first, so that they then will potentially buy your book, means that you can absolutely do it without having something already out there. However, it's easier to do if you already have something out there.
I think that's an excellent conclusion. Would I start a newsletter? I think I would. I'm like you. I'm like 80-20.
You know
I
what you
would.
might want to start if you don't want to write a bunch of things is Instagram's new feature of what is it called? There's like a
Threads?
thing like you put into groups and you can say yes to it or no. You get invited by the person you
Oh,
follow, and then they give you like news, like just here's a picture, here's a voice message, here's like a video. You can't comment, but you can leave emojis, reactions, and it's just like it's like the select few, as in like the people who want to know more and see the behind the scenes. And I've seen a lot of it in the fashion girlies. All the fashion girlies do it.
I've been getting a few of those like direct channel invites or whatever they call.
Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah.
That sounds fun. But also feel like her point of like owning your own mailing list is important. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not starting one now, but I'm never saying never, unlike
Yeah.
Justin Bieber.
Fair.
And I think that wraps up this discussion. Do you have anything, closing words, anything you want to say?
I mean, I might read the second book if I ever get to the point where I do make a newsletter, but I don't know yet.
Yeah, her second book is newsletter Linja and is all about cookies. Like, I feel like that's
Specifically.
something I'd be interested in reading. So definitely would check out the cookie book
Yeah.
if and when I ever get around to making a newsletter. Thank you
Ooh,
so much for this. Absolutely love discussion. It was very helpful. You're welcome.
also, one last thought before we close this completely. Um, I don't actually think, after reading this book, I was like, I don't actually think newsletters have to be lengthy messages. Like, you can very well have this newsletter that goes a little bit more like here's more imagery than texts, and here's like a short amount of content and a little extra cookie or whatever it is that you're selling as well. But I don't think that they have to be like journals, personally.
Yeah, again, for me, the weird thing about authorship newsletters is that the process of publishing a book is so slow.
Mm.
So if you have like a monthly newsletter, this is not me writing on you, Katie. I love you. I love your newsletters, but it's because I'm your friend. But I just feel like, if it takes a year to query, if it takes a year to do this and do that, like you have already your Instagram and your YouTube, and you can share the exact same information there. But I feel like Katie's point of view is more like a journal for the people who want to know her inner
Yeah.
thoughts. I think it's a very good standing point for a newsletter. And I think you have found your super fans. And that Katie praise is going to be the closing text of the day. Newsletter Ninja, 4 out of 6, would recommend. Good farewell. I don't have any outros yet. Katie, can you make me some outros at some point? Thank you. See you next time. Next month's book have not been picked yet. I don't know who'll be on the channel. Hopefully, I'll try and get back into streaming for the next month. So Tuesday streams will be up, with or without guests. Who knows? Follow and subscribe for more.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. I am a super fan of you, Malin. Like I've said many times. I will have you on.
I'm generally a super fan of this series on craft books, to be honest.
I just like that. I'm like, I should invite authors to my channel so we can talk about craft book. And so far, it's been you and then one stream with Kelly.
I keep being like, I want to read that book.
Yeah. So if you have any suggestions for a book for me to read in April, May, and June, leave a comment. I'll get to it. I try to select a quarter at a time so that I know what's coming up and can order it if I need to, because this took a minute to come in the mail. So I try to be like plan a quarter at a time. I have nothing planned for quarter 2. So if you have a book you want me to read or, give any thoughts about, call in, send me a DM on YouTube or on Instagram, or send me an email. I don't know. Find my email address. I challenge you. Send me a newsletter, and I will probably read it if I'm interested. Thank you so much for having me, Malin. Nope. Thank you so much for being here, Malin.
You had yourself.
Thank you so much for having me here, Stig. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut the cord. Bye. Noted.